We're going to start tonight. Of course, this is always an open discussion or open group. And if y'all in the back, you can scoot closer if you want to. But you don't have to. So today we're going to go over, let me get my clicker in the right place, lessons. And we're going to play with the word play of lessons being like there's less of you on. So we have to have experiences or lessons to address that there's less of us on. And I'll get into that as we go along. So today... Yeah, I should just read the words out of it. So we're going to discuss that tonight. Like I said, it's an open discussion. I'm just crazy enough to share what I feel or think. So by all means, everybody else can feel free to do the same. What I'm sharing isn't or doesn't have to be your truth. So I'm just putting an idea out there for us to explore. Then what if lessons are a result of us being less than our true potential? Lessons help us become something more. They help us stretch ourselves. Lessons, less-ons, help us turn more of ourselves on, aka personally grow on all levels of our being. From our protons to our neutrons to our electrons to our photons. Oh, actually put protons twice. Within our atoms. And this is kind of cool. When I picked up this picture of the atom, you look inside where they do the little it's the Star of David. Huh. I was like, see the little Star of David in here? Triangle up, triangle down. Star of David being a representation of an energy field around us. Male going up, female coming down. So I thought that was kind of cool. So it's our protons, electrons, neutrons, and our photons. And we actually do have light-sensitive aspects inside our body. We actually, whenever light touches the body, I really like color therapy. I even have a color therapy lens that I use, or with different colors during sessions sometimes.
No, I'm fine. No, I like sitting on the floor.
Okay.
Thanks.
So color therapy is really powerful. I love it. So to the codon, so we're going from like the atom level into our codons, and I think that word is interesting, codon, relating to the DNA. Basically, codons are how the language of your DNA lines up.
It's a coding.
Yeah, it's a coding. And actually, there's supposedly 64 codons in the human DNA, which is correlates to the 64 I Ching, which is a way of divinating information from spirit. So we have 64 codons in our DNA, and that DNA is within the nucleus of our cells. It's in these little chromosomes wound up, and that's in our cells. From the cells, via mitosis and epigenetics. Epigenetics is basically, it's across the board really, but they're showing that a physical habit will actually rewrite your DNA the longer you do it. For example, if you eat a lot of fat over and over and over and over and over, eventually you're going to have cholesterol issues, and that'll actually rewrite in your DNA, and you could possibly pass that on just from you having the habit. Doesn't mean that it had to come from the DNA in the very beginning. You rewrote it. So epigenetics is that field. It's becoming more and more popular. But it doesn't stop there. Your mental thoughts and your emotional feelings actually rewrite your DNA as well. And DNA is important because that's how it's like the blueprint of the body. You know, the RNA comes in and copies it, and we make new cells based on what the DNA is going on. Yeah?
So when we talk about something being passed on, like when people think, well, my mother had heart problems, my dad, I'm going to have heart problems.
Right.
We don't necessarily have to go there, really.
Well,
we can recode through epigenetics, kind of recode ourselves?
Supposedly, yeah. I mean, that's the hypothesis that through, of course, if you could really get into the field of metaphysics where it's like your thoughts create reality, then the longer you have, we're going to jump ahead here in a second, but it's about changing a particular pattern, because your DNA is basically a pattern. You keep reproducing the same thing over and over. What's that thing where if you keep doing the same thing over and over, not changing anything?
That's pretty stupid.
Expect to change.
Yeah. It's called insanity.
Insanity, yeah, true. Anyway, and this epigenetics, whenever you rewrite the DNA, when the cells divide, you're spreading that new pattern. But we're also at this time spreading a negative pattern. That's what keeps happening in the body. So there's no real new growth. We just kind of keep redoing the same thing over and over. So from the cells, via the mitosis, the epigenetics, the expanded self is copied and expanded upon, which leads to the embodiment of one's truer self. So as our thoughts and emotions change, our body rewrites and keeps expanding and expanding. So we go from one part of the body to the entire body being changed. So then neogenesis, which just means new growth, leads to the body transforming into a new Eden, or returning to the Eden, or Garden of Eden. As within microcosm, so without the macrocosm. So there's that aspect of as within, so without. So as we change our bodies, my hypothesis is we move back into, like they talked about in the Bible in Genesis, where everything was connected to spirit. There was no disconnection from Adam and Eve to God or spirit. They were connected. And to me, the entire planet is the Garden of Eden. It's not just one place. So it's not like we were kicked out of the garden at all. If the entire planet is the garden, our perceptions, especially of judgment, which is represented by the tree of good and bad, that's just good and bad. When you eat from the tree of good and bad judgment, it clouded our ability to see the sacred place that we live in, and that everyone else is sacred as well. And I thought this was pretty interesting, this little pic that I stole. You have the one cell, then it divides. See, this is a Piscean symbol here. You get the fish if you cut away the circles. Then you divide into 4. You get another sacred geometry, and then that's the flower of life. Drumbelow's work around that, which I thought was interesting. And basically, sacred geometry is a reflection of, you could say, birth, the beginning.
Of life.
Yeah. And think about it. What's the most sacred thing out there? It's life. So sacred geometry is life geometry. So all these things that we need to turn back on into the body. So this all may sound like science fiction, but it isn't. However, our personal Klingons are involved in slowing down the process of turning ourselves on completely. And if you don't know Star Trek, that joke is over your head. But so it's the things that we cling on to that prevent us from moving forward. Of course, I'm just trying to play on the word "on" as many times as possible. We know now that we experience less ons in our life when we are being or embodying anything less than our true or fully empowered selves. Mm-hmm. But what really happens when we learn a lesson?
We grow.
Do what?
We grow, move forward.
Right. So
we release a belief, or we come into a new place.
Okay. I'm just playing with ideas now.
Oh.
So what were you going to say?
Changing those neural pathways.
Neural pathways, yeah.
That have a path, that we're a habit.
Mm-hmm.
If we learn something new, then I think we become aware that what we have to do in order to continue to believe this.
Right. I think it's like that, like you said, new pathways, like this tall wheat. And then once one person walks through it, let's say you have a habit in your brain, once you have that thought once, it's like that pattern is there, and the more you run it, it's like on my grandparents' farm, they had these particular trails where the cows walked, and it wasn't just that the grass was worn down, but actually it went into the earth. It became a really deep groove. And they talk about the grooves within our brain. So once we have a habit going, it's just easy to go that way because it's like there, you know. So part of changing our lessons is changing the old way that we used to go about getting somewhere. So new pathways. Beth, why don't you repeat what you said a little bit? You said about the belief.
That when we
Now you lost your train of thought.
Who remembers what that?
You said it took us to it when we change the belief and get a new belief. It takes us to a new place.
Yeah, it's like you see it from a whole different
perception.
Yeah. A whole
Okay.
different.
Anybody else? Okay. What is the underlying change that leads to our electrons, protons, neutrons, photons, and codons changing? So what is the one thing that changes before anything physical changes? Our thoughts. So y'all are way ahead of me. because of course this group would be. So wouldn't it be our thoughts? Yeah, it's our thoughts that are the initial thing changing. So what is the lesson really doing? I mean, if you take
Changing your thoughts.
yeah, it's giving you a new way of thinking. And if the old way of thinking was embodying less of yourself than who you really are, then lessons are just making you change your thoughts to expand to a broader perception. So literally, lessons to me are what we get drawn into when we're being less than who we really are in some way, whether that's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual.
And then it depends on where you are and how comfortable or uncomfortable you are there with whether you even want to recognize that it's a lesson.
True.
And understand that it's about you, because so many people take it's like this is something wrong with something outside of me.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than
Yeah, and that happens a lot. I mean, even in my own life. When we talked about this before, it's like we may be uncomfortable in a situation, but we're also, the fear makes us keep from moving forward, because it's like we're uncomfortable, but we're afraid to move in to what make us feel better or more comfortable,
or
because
that would even have a chance of being that,
Right.
giving that to us.
yeah. So a lot of times, that people say that it's easy, but really you're in discomfort.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the places you I mean, face it, when you're in a situation, whether it's a relationship, a job, or just your overall health and well-being, the discomfort there, which would also be, to me, discomfort and lessons kind of go hand in hand, because if you don't have any discomfort, you don't have that initial motivation, which is getting that the lesson is trying to teach you to think, feel, or be more expanded than you truly are.
Yeah,
So-
they say you can't learn inside of your comfort zone. You're not going to learn.
Right. I wish I had a diagram to show, but I'll just do it with my hands. They say that we all have this box that we're comfortable in, and then there's a little bit of outside that box that we can go. But if we go too far, then what happens is we'll usually go from our comfort zone past the zone that's going to make us grow. We'll hit the zone that freaks us out, and then we'll shoot back.
Yeah.
So, but we got to push past, but not too far. So, pushing yourself too far doesn't do anything in the long run. You got to have patience with yourself, but you got to push. You got to try to move forward.
No wonder I'm so tired.
What were you going to say, Deborah?
You said something about you said something about less than who we are.
Right.
Less than our higher self, or less than.
Well, the issue is who are we?
That's a good question.
Who do we believe that we are, so that we can be more than what we're doing right now?
Right.
And can we believe that? Is it within our genes and our atoms and our molecules to believe that we are divine? I mean, if it is not, then we might as well just stop.
Right.
It comes from the discomfort zone. I think wherever you are, when you finally get to the place of being not comfortable anymore where you are that pushes you, it's because during that discomfort, you wake up one day and think, there's more to me than this.
But you've got to know that there is something more that you can do.
Yeah, but I think that what Katie was saying, the lessons in the discomfort make you go, there's got to be something more than this. It's that questioning,
I think it's still a journey.
yeah, the questioning or the pondering, like there's got to be something better than this.
Yeah, I think it's
There's a chair back there. There's plenty of chairs. Just take it from the table.
But instead of the gotta be something better than this, instead of thinking that's a very negative total spin on it. Instead of that, if we would just concentrate, I think, on what we do have right now that is awesome and good and what we're grateful for,
Right.
then all the other good stuff comes.
That works. It does work.
So just to give gratitude, I mean, it could be stupid stuff. Well, you think it's stupid, like your coffee in the morning tastes good, or
Right.
you love your dog or your horses, you go on a beautiful ride with your horse, and just focusing on that, then those changes and those things come, instead of, what else is there?
Right.
Because that's really negative.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to put a negative spin on it at all. I'm just saying being aware of when those things come, that they are. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to change the perception of looking at these things as lessons, as basically pointing to, all right, you're not being completely who you are. That's what the lesson is. Less on. There's less of me on. That's why I'm in this situation that I'm in that appears to be negative, is I'm not here, or I'm not playing completely.
And you have to get to Katie's point before you can get to Jennifer's point.
Which is?
Which is being unsatisfied.
Yeah.
It's being unsatisfied with the situation.
And it wasn't about
No.
things. It was about being dissatisfied with self, knowing there's more of me than this, not I need a bigger house or a different car or a different job.
Yeah. You gotta get to that point
Right.
before you can get over here
To the
where you
I'm enough. And it's an F.
Yeah, I think that is a process for sure.
It's absolutely a journey. If we all could do that overnight, we wouldn't be here anymore.
Probably not,
You know,
yeah.
we'd be in the ethers going, woo-hoo,
Yeah.
we did it.
Felicia, you were going to say something.
No, I was just agreeing.
Oh, with Deborah? Cool. So I'm kind of getting into what y'all are talking about. So let's kind of follow that through and then we'll come back. So gaining control, which is basically mastery, because control, what Jenny kind of goes with that. It's like control becomes a negative term. It's like, here, let me shove myself in a box, or let me try to be something more, when it's really just gaining mastery of who you are. Not controlling, not saying, I'm a bad person, but just
Not
taking
limiting.
responsibility and mastery. I'm sorry, what was that?
Not limiting.
Yeah.
Controlling sometimes seems limiting.
It is very, So gaining control or mastery of our thoughts exercises our consciousness. Exercising our consciousness stretches and strengthens our consciousness. If you think about it, if you just do the same thing in and out, the aging process, from what I've seen and experienced, it speeds up. You've got to have something new happening all the time to make life happen. I mean, it is about something new happening, not the same old thing over and over. So whenever we get into those ruts, it's like the energy, think about it. If you work and do the same thing day in, day out, if your heart's not completely in it, it drains you over time.
Especially if we are operating on stress and hormones, or in survival instead.
Yeah.
Breathe and
Mhm.
stress. If we operate on those, then it sends bad signals anyway.
Exactly. Mhm.
To sends those hormones to the organs, and after a while, if it's not working optimally, well then something is going to happen.
Right, and that goes back to what Katie was saying, when it's miserable and it sucks, that's when you're stressed. But then if you really work and you start saying things like, hey, I just need to be more, and not need more, but I choose to be more and express myself, then you wind up at Jenny's place where it's like, hey, I'm really enjoying life, and it's expanding and growing and going from there. So going back to the consciousness aspect and also tying in Genesis and the Eden, our once limited consciousness becomes super consciousness as we try to stretch it and expand it. And the reawakening to our super selves is screaming at us from our collective consciousness in movies. I totally believe that in movies we have this collective consciousness that's screaming back at us, because anything that you ever write yourself, or you see a movie, or you see another book, to me you can't help but put collective consciousness in it. And it's interesting that a lot of the movies that are coming out these days are all about superpowers. I mean, it's huge the last couple of years. It's like every couple of months there's a movie about superheroes. Superman is an obvious one. I put Green Lantern's symbol in the center here. Green Lantern really speaks to me for a couple of different reasons. For one, you see the pi symbol here, the white pi symbol? Look how, if you all you take is one line here and you have a pi symbol. So Green Lantern is the color green, it's the heart chakra. He wears his ring on the middle finger, which in Chinese medicine is the emotional heart. And it's the willpower that takes control of that energy. Mm-hmm. And then there's X-Men. This symbol has really spoken to me for a long time. I tend to write it everywhere, this little X circle thing. The reawakening to our super selves is screaming at us, like I said, from the collective consciousness in movies and everything else. And this is where I'm trying to get with all this. Being superhuman is our birthright. In the beginning, Genesis, man and woman were created, connected to, and in conscious communication with God and Spirit. And some of y'all have seen some of my previous videos, but here's Michelangelo's creation of Adam. And here you have this seemingly innocent picture here of God, some cherubs around God, reaching out with his finger to touch Adam. But if you notice about the cloak that's around God, it's very similarly shaped to the brain. So Michelangelo was, of course, tied into these elites that had all this higher information, and he put a lot of hidden codes in his art. So this next picture, I blow that up, and you can see how the brain totally fits over that. Okay, even the legs coming out represent the spinal cord. And if you look where God is reaching through, it's through the pituitary area. So that's pretty interesting. The third eye, right. So there is the creation of Adam, a code hidden in art. So things are changing. Through neogenesis, our expanding thoughts, our consciousness, are returning us to Eden. So this is a cell on the left, and this is the earth. So as we change our consciousness, since we're linked to the earth, as we expand our consciousness, our genetics change. We become more superhuman. Things like we do in group here, just take a moment and think about before you ever knew anything about Reiki, energy, picking up someone else's thoughts. When I think back to, I was like, before 96, when I woke up in massage school in 96, prior to that, I didn't know jack about that. But now here I am talking about it. Anyway, in this group, we pick up thoughts from other people. We can pick up feelings. You can interact with energy. That's a superpower. I mean, seriously, every human has that ability. There's not one that doesn't. Some have some really gifted in certain areas, but the overall human race has that ability that we're not even using completely. Not even the human race is using a tenth of those powers. And in this group, I think we've expanded that. But there's still broader areas we can expand into and touch. So as we change ourselves, then the Eden comes back to the earth. We begin to really open up and change the world. You can facilitate this transformation by simply tending to your own inner transformation, not just by working on yourself, but embodying. So embodying is embody. I'm going to put this inside of me, what you know. It's time to own it and show it.
Why did you separate the time to own it?
Oh, I was playing with the word on in my mind.
Oh,
Own,
I see.
own has on. So
Okay.
when you own it, it's on.
Yeah, I get it.
My silly sense of humor. I get you now, John. You're weird. I get.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
When you're speaking of consciousness, I tend to think of my own, what I would think is my individual consciousness.
Mhm.
But is it more accurate, you were talking about anytime we see a movie, we're really seeing something from the collective consciousness?
Mhm.
Is that what you said? So is it more accurate to think in terms of collective consciousness rather than, oh, here's my own individual consciousness that's all by itself?
Every one of us in this room could have, and there's about 20 of us in this room, could have a different answer for that. I'm just going to share where I am right now, and that changes all the time, to be honest. But my place now is that we are a collective, just like my body is one body. But there are many different parts that make up the body, and each one of those parts are just as important as any other part. So the thing is to be in complete balance. To not be in duality is to realize your individuality, but also to realize at the same time that you're part of everything. So that's not living in duality. Duality is either focusing, and neither one is good or bad, because I've done both of these. And I'll tell you, let me explain first. One is to be so focused on your individuality that you don't even acknowledge that you're connected to anything else. And one is you're so acknowledged that you're connected to everything else that you deny your individuality. I've done both of those, and they're both very destructive because I've been so focused on other people that I suffer from that. So there's a fine. You gotta own both to live non-dualistically, non-polarized. Is to realize that you are an individual, and that is super important because every one of us has a function to do, just like every cell in the body has something to do. And if you focus too much on the collective, then you lose your individuality, and then you lose your power in that. So our power comes from our individuality as well as the collective. So you gotta see both at the same time, not one or the other, in my opinion.
Go ahead, you do this.
No, I was thinking about that yesterday, today. It just kind of hit me with Christ on the cross.
Right.
Because they didn't crucify him like this. It was like his arms were out. The cross, the pole went all the way up.
Mhm.
It's like when we're aligned and we are, completely in touch with Christ consciousness.
Right.
We're also stretching out because if we're, we've all seen people who are awakened or they're conscious, but they're just like always in meditation. They're always just like
Right.
doing their own freaking
I know
thing.
that, yeah.
And they don't, when they're not interacting with anyone,
Mhm.
they're not changing anyone's life, they're not connected at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anybody good.
You're totally right.
Whatsoever. It has to go.
That's a good example.
I was in a relationship once, and she was like on me, and she says, you're going to reach a point where you're ineffective when you go that path.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Buddha always has bodhisattvas around him. Bodhisattvas are the true teachers. Bodhisattvas are the ones that, because the Buddha is somebody that they say is, what is it? Kate kate bodhisattva. He's gone so far to the other shore, he can't even totally relate to this reality anymore. So there's got to be a balance. A bodhisattva has a foot in both worlds. A bodhisattva, bodhi just means light. So it's the server of the light. And you can, so and you can't, and one of my purposes, I believe, is to translate things that seem so far out into bite-sized, understandable things. Because that's why a lot of the information, the spiritual information, has been so cryptic, is because you're taking this information from somebody that's like on the other side, and the only way they can give it to you is in parables and stories, just like Jesus did. I mean, to me, Jesus was like a Dalai Lama. And actually, if you look at some of the stories, the men from the east who followed the star, if you look at the Dalai Lama's life, this is supposed to be the 14th reincarnation, right? 14th? Every time he passes away, a group of people calculate the astrology, and they follow the astrology, which is the stars, and then they find the child when he is like 3 years old. They lay out in front of the Dalai Lama every time this tarp or this blanket, and it has some items of his previous life and some items that are just random. And the 3-year-old literally picks up the items that are his, and that's how they know it's the Dalai Lama. So I think Jesus was a very similar type spirit, but that's just my perception. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But I really love that analogy, Felicia, because I've thought about Jesus on the cross. He's pierced in his hands, which is the emotional heart. That's where and this is a meridian point, the palm of the hand. If you bring your middle finger down and you hit the palm, that's pericardium 8 or 9. I believe it's 8. And that is where the healing comes. And your heart has to be open to do that. So when your arms are crossed, when your hand expanded and open, healing comes from that place. So yeah, the analogy there would be really, the expandedness, the open space there.
And when we're completely aligned with that, and we take all of that power and acknowledge that, and then walk in that power,
right?
Then that's when we're.
And that's really what I think it's about, is we have to be the example. So Jesus was like an example of, like you said, you may know a lot of things, but are you really enacting it? And I'm not doing 100% what I feel I should. Not like I have to do it, but what I want to do. So we have that, you ever had that struggle with yourself? It's like, I know who I want to be, but then there's part of you that sidetracks you, So the thing is, that's where that conflict comes from. That's where the lesson comes from. It's like the lower self and the higher self kind of butting heads a little bit. Deborah?
One thing that helped me, Miriam, John gave an analogy one time about how we are associated with divine intelligence, source, higher energy, however you want to call it. He explained it to me, and I could get it, is that God, or higher intelligence, whatever you want to call the source of everything, is the ocean, and we are the waves. And once I could get that analogy in me, I knew that I was a part of everything, because God is everything. So when we are connected to that one, and we are the one, because we really are it. There's only one person here, okay? There's only one thing here, and that's God. And that analogy that John gave me helped me to realize that I do have a consciousness, but so does higher power have consciousness. But when I am aligned with that when my consciousness is aligned with that higher consciousness, which is love and joy and happiness and good and all good things, then that is when I am my true self. When I am love, I am my true self, because I believe that God is love. So that analogy for me that John gave me helped me more than anything to realize, yes, I do have a consciousness. Yes, I do have a free will. I can act and do anything I want to do here. But if I'm not aligned with that higher consciousness of truth and love, then what am I? I am separate. And when I become separate, I know it. I know when I become separate. I think of if I'm separate from somebody else, I can kill them, I can lie to them, I can judge them, I can do anything. But if I am aligned with them and they are me and I am them, I won't kill them.
The only thing that kind of doesn't feel totally right.
Right.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I can't groove with is that it sounds a little bit like, here I am, and I've got to get in line with something else, while it seems like what was coming across to me was that we really are all one. I mean, it is one whether we realize it or not.
I'm right there. That's what I understand. It's not like he said, we didn't leave Eden. We just are not denying, but we're just not aware that it's already here.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Which goes
And
which
that's hard-
goes with
is that
what
what's hard for you though? Is that
Yeah, when I think of aligning myself with something, I think of two separate things. Here's this point, here's my point, I've got to get in line with that. While it seems more, if I, think about it from just a slightly different perspective, it seems like we're all one. The cells, okay, I had it explained to me once that it's like a baby is fascinated with its own hand. It
Right.
doesn't realize that it's in
hand.
control of the hand,
Right.
but it's just
Mhm.
isn't this hand wonderful, or its feet?
Mhm.
And then it comes to realize that's me.
Yeah.
That is me.
See, but what Beth just said and Deborah said to me are the same thing. It's a perception shift. Like they say, one of the oldest sayings, Ram Dass used to say this, is chop wood, carry water before enlightenment. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You're doing the same damn thing. It's just the perception with what you do everything. That changes everything.
Yeah,
it's the
two people
perception.
can have the same experience.
And one person's like, complaining the entire day.
no.
And the other person's in this loving space of like, wow, I'm doing this for a higher purpose.
Yeah,
even if it's just for whatever works for that person.
Okay, I'm wondering, John, if, just say like, however many of us there are here,
Right.
we come here, we think we come here as individuals, but just by the act of coming together, listening to the same words, or,
Right.
sharing this
Entertaining the
experience.
same thought.
Yeah. Are we being literally influenced, whether we're aware of it or not?
Yeah, we're influenced all the time. I mean, TV shows, they're called programs. They're not called programs for no reason. So we have a myriad of this. We're bombarded all the time. And it's all here that we don't even see. I mean, I can turn a radio on right here and pick up I don't know how many different stations. So all the stations are here. It's just what you tune to. So the birds of a feather flock together. That's why you want to tune in and hang around people that are going the same direction that you want to go.
Or right, or feels like this is like it draws you.
Right.
It's attracted to you. It's
Mhm.
it's where you get that feeling of this. I'm in the right place.
And to add the stages to it, this just popped in my head. And I believe we all kind of channel. So when things pop in my head, I always take that as, and I get visual. So the visual that just came to me is, let's say there's an alcoholic. Okay, that's somebody not being completely in line with themselves. Okay, just because it's destructive in lots of different ways. So let's say this person's an alcoholic, and they go through all the negative things, and then finally they reach the point where there's got to be something better. And once they start, that thought comes in. That's when the veil opens and something new can come in. But then they've got to go through the levels and the steps to do that. So then they join like AA or something like that, Alcoholics Anonymous. And then they're with that group, which helps them get free of that perception before. But then you know what? They then have to get rid of the AA to actually end that step. Because as long as you're in the AA, you're still in between. You're in between the steps. So they talk about meditation being a golden chain. A golden chain means, it can make you feel good like meditation does. But if you have to sit there and meditate to get into that space, then it's become a chain. It's become something you have to do, and you got to move into more embodying it than the. So.
Remember we talked about that last time, but truly when you're in that place of that, we talked about our black hole and being in that middle space there, that calm, regardless of what's going on.
Right.
That's when you've achieved just a 24/7. You're in that meditative state, and you can.
I had this experience one time, way before I knew what the hell a toroidal field was, which basically a toroidal field is the same kind of magnetic field that's around the Earth, it's around every individual. And this experience was, it's everything. Every cell, so basically, they talk about there being a bubble theory out there, not the string theory, but a bubble theory about reality. Anyway, I had this experience. It was a meditative experience, even though at the time I didn't know what meditation was. And it was, to be honest, I don't do anything like this anymore, but it was altered state kind of experience.
I
There-
see, so
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I can put myself back there. It's an amazing feeling. All of a sudden, I'm in, what I now know to be the toroidal field. There's energy swirling, there's energy swirling, there's energy swirling. And what came to me is like anytime something comes through and you grab a hold of it, the momentum pulls you out of the center, and you get stuck out in the periphery, and you're spinning around like in a dryer, you're tumbling around until you can stop in the center there, which is the heart space, which they say the toroidal field is around even our galaxy. And when I really tuned into that space, I was just kind of going through the experience. I didn't know the words. I can give it words now. But when I really got into that space and I was just watching everything flow by, I was like, that's God. God is in that space of watching everything going by without getting caught up in it. So if you can be in that meditative space, in your heart space, meditation is a 24-hour experience. You are superhuman because you know what to do, what not to do, because it's all there at the same time and you're being it. That's when you're superhuman. There is no need to try to meditate or get anywhere because you're so conscious in the moment. So what happens is we get pulled out here and we're not conscious in the moment when something happens.
I think that's the secret of long life, is to be in.
And then lessons come along to push us back into the center. So really this comes back to changing perceptions, and which is basically, but here's the thing, epigenetics says as soon as you change your thoughts, you change your DNA. And there's a thing that goes with that, and I hate to put limitations out there, but there is something that says when you're getting rid of an old habit or making a new habit, you want to do something 21 days. 21 days is supposedly what it takes to rewrite the neural pathways in the hypothalamus. It changes the neuropeptides that are being distributed, which changes the hormones because the pituitary sets right there. So 21 days to change that pattern that you've been going through, the groove in the brain that you've been walking for eons, to change it into a new path.
Well, when you have an experience such as you had, and you say that you can, to this day, still sort of...
Tune into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you have that, then I've heard the expression, once you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or, once you know something,
Yeah.
you can't go back and not know it.
Well, we can play stupid. When everybody in this room is playing stupid. I mean, because in this room, I guarantee you know. You already freaking know. So that's the thing that I'm talking about now is like, okay, we already know. Now it's time for us to embody it. I mean, how many times are you going to read the same damn thing? How many times are you going to hear the same damn thing? When are you going to fucking embody it? And I'm saying that because I'm saying it to my fucking self, okay? Because you're like Deborah said, y'all are me too. So it's like, when are you going to fucking be it? When are you going to embody it?
Well, what is your answer? What do you feel is stopping us, you, me, from just that?
Enticing thought patterns.
Sort of seductive.
Oh yeah, it's very seductive. It's enticing thought patterns, things that we're used to doing or afraid to go outside of. So, to me, if it is all about changing your consciousness, that's the thing. That's the problem to begin with.
By coming out of your comfort zone.
That's where I get back to when you know, you know. I mean, you had the experience.
Right.
So you know without any question. You didn't have to read a book about it or sit in a discussion about it. You just experienced it.
Right.
So you know it. You know it's there.
Right. Yeah.
Now the deal is to find the path.
But I mean, you can know you're an alcoholic. It doesn't fucking change the fact that you're an alcoholic. You just know now, right? So then you've got to do the steps that it takes to get outside of that. So,
but when you sit, like at an AA meeting, and this is no real comment on AA.
I know.
When you sit and say, I am, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're setting a strong pattern.
You're reinforcing.
Right. That's why I said eventually, because so AA helps free a person, but then that becomes its own chain. You know what I mean?
But when you keep saying I am an alcoholic, then doesn't
I know,
that
yeah,
But
it
don't
does.
we do that when we tap? We make that statement, we acknowledge that, and then we go to move on.
But I see a slight, I see not a slight, I see a huge difference between, I agree, we have to acknowledge
Mhm.
before we can move on. If we're not acknowledging, we're in denial or
Right.
somewhere else, but we're not there. But when we keep,
That's why I say you
am
gotta
an
get past
alcoholic.
it.
I mean, what do alcoholics do?
Well, the thing is the consciousness is what needs to expand, but the consciousness is also the thing that's chained up. So it's a really kind of strange place that we've gotten ourselves into because we are the problem that we're trying to solve ourselves. So it's like a Rubik's Cube. I mean, you ever seen those people that can solve it in a minute? That's not me. I used to peel the stickers off and stick
That's the way.
Yeah, it works. But you that's where we are right now. That's what this group is right now. We're working on solving ourselves. And yes, there is a level of where you can just go there and be that. But it's what our mind consciousness does to us because we're all growing and learning. So our consciousness, to me, is like we're built into the system. To me, this isn't physical, and then spiritual's out there. God with the white beard is waiting up in heaven for us. It's all intertwined, like Deborah said. If God is omnipresent, I mean, if you really understand, what is omnipresent? Everywhere. Then how the hell is God not here in the physical, in every cell of me, right? So it's really just me not being tuned into that station.
You know what I think it is? We don't believe who we can be.
That's probably.
I have something that happened to me
Go ahead.
this week, and that's
Okay.
one reason why I'm here.
Okay.
Y'all are talking about what happened.
Okay, tell me.
Okay. I was working out in the garden and digging and stuff, and I'm always thinking, I can't get my thoughts to stop, but so I was digging and I was thinking about my writing in my life and all that
Mhm.
bullshit. Anyway, and so, and out of habit, I say in my mind, oh, dear God, if this is your will, please let me know your will. Please let me be in alignment with your will. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, you dumbass. You big dumbass. You are already in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you just fucking take this out of the equation, this bullshit that you've been saying. Pardon me if I'm bothering you. But this is how I talk to myself. Anyway, with all of this stuff that you kind of semi-believe, and you're so afraid of not putting God in the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And because, well, what if Jesus really is the answer and you're not, whatever. I want to have all bases covered.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but I'm like, you already know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what to write. You already write it. All you have to do is just go ahead and do it and just quit. Just leave God out of the equation. He's sick and tired of listening to you stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're already in alignment, then just fucking do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
right.
well. There you go. There's my.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I had that same conversation because I say things just out of habit.
Yeah.
It was out of pure habit.
Right.
And there's those ruts.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what we're trying to overcome, if anything. But it's not anything out there that we're trying to overcome. It's ourselves that we're trying to overcome. But here's the thing: is enough of us think the same way, then we're going to manifest that either in our own individual lives or collectively. So I believe that's exactly why the world is the way it is today, is because we have created it that way. And the only way to change it is to change the ruts that we've been walking on. So for every person that changes their rut, the reality can shift. And a lot of times it's like, like going to AA is someone still focusing on the problem.
Yeah.
Stop drinking and move the fuck on. Quit talking about it.
Right.
Do what you need to do to move on. Because AA is like the in-between where you're continuing to focus on the negative thing, but not fully move into being something completely different yourself. Because the change that's going to show up in the world is only going to happen when it happens with us first. We can't do shit out there. I don't care if you kill the president, you kill somebody else. There's always going to be somebody else that comes up because the consciousness is what's creating it. So if you want a different life, you've got to change what you're doing only. Okay? And then if enough of us start having the guts to do that, and those people are spread over the planet, then the entire planet starts to change. Because those are new thoughts that are being injected, new positive thoughts being injected to the collective brain. Because if you look at the eastern and western hemisphere of the planet, it's a freaking brain. The east, okay, the east was all the spiritual. It was the feminine side. The masculine, the west, was all focused on money. It was the male side, male, female. And then boom, it flipped. That's all that. You know, they talk about the polarity switching on the planet. That's all that is. It's not about the freaking planet falling apart. It's polarity switches all the time. Eventually, it'll switch back to the feminine going back over there. Right now, the feminine is being injected into the Western world. That's why you see all this metaphysical stuff. A couple of years ago, I went to a massage class. It was somebody else's massage class, and they asked me to come in and talk about energy work. And there was an Indian guy there. And I had the chakra system, and the Sanskrit symbols and the Middle Eastern symbols are all in there. And he goes, I know that. But he didn't know anything about the spiritual aspect of it because all that information had come over here. So he was in his 20s. He was raised in the East where it was all focused on spirituality. The people living living there with the Dalai Lama, that was all spiritually focused day after day with spirit. But it shifted, so now those people have lost touch with that, and now we're being injected here, and then it'll switch back, and it'll switch back.
He was in his 20s?
Yeah.
So he had cell phones and McDonald's and money.
Yeah.
Right? It's
But-
all
but-
centers.
Yeah. But he never,
Dell Computer Call Centers.
but he never had that he never had the teaching of what I've been studying that goes back to that. I mean, that's where it freaking came from. Most of the meditation, all the chakra information came from there, but yet now people are born without even that knowledge because now it's flipped over here.
Yeah, China is a completely capitalist society now.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that was the mark of when that shifted from when we went masculine, female, the polarities. It's not like the planet's going to fall apart. Polarities are shifting all the time. So the pole switch is simply that, male-female switch, the yin and yang. So now it's like we need to ride that wave while it's here. But it's just as important on the other side because you know what? All the people, okay, this goes back to your question about individual or whole. All those people were so focused on the whole and spirituality that when communist China came in, it cleaned their clock. They had no personal power, okay? No personal power. So now it's over there to teach them you have to think about yourself, not just the whole. Does that make sense? So that lesson is perfect for over there. It's not like, oh, that's a horrible lesson. No, they need to fucking learn that, all right? And we need to learn the lessons that are here. Sorry, with all the F
Wow,
words.
that's so cool.
Was it one of us here tonight that put up that video on this video could wake up the world?
That was Deborah. Alan Watt? Was it Alan Watt?
I don't know. You know what I'm talking about?
I've watched several.
Well, someone
You just posted one.
but this was a little bit ago. This was in December, I believe.
Oh.
But it said this video could wake up the world, and it was saying something like, we don't, we are part of the whole, and we don't have to teach our thyroid gland or any organ in our body to work. It just does it.
Right.
And it took it a huge step farther to say, do you know which one I'm talking about?
haven't listened. Is that the one,
I
Deborah?
saw it
In
recently.
December, she said it was shared.
Oh, in December?
Well, no, I think it was just the other day.
Okay.
And then it said, we don't have to know how to shine the sun.
Exactly. Right.
That was the part that
Mhm.
stuck with me, that we are part of all this, and it's there, whether we know it,
Right.
quote, know it or not, we know it from the inside out.
Well, just like consciousness runs the show, it's automatic happening. Like Deborah says, when you're in line with Christ, you're in line with God, things in your body and in the world just work better because that's a particular alignment. However, if you're aligned to, let's say, I never get to enjoy the sweetness in life. Life is never sweet. It's always struggle from the cradle to the grave. I'm going to have to fight. And there's nothing sweet in the world. Well, the body will then create what the consciousness pattern is, which is diabetes from that description. The body literally can't take in the sweetness that life is giving it. Even if the person took a handful of sugar, the body would have a huge issue with it, right? So that's a consciousness manifestation of thoughts, period. That's the crazy thing about reality. So if you're in line with really high thoughts, like Abraham Hicks talks about getting on the high flying disc. When you're doing that, like Jenny said a moment ago, when you're thinking those thoughts, you're there. But the thing is to go even beyond just you having to think it, is to be it. Because if I have to effort, like, okay, I'm going to love everybody today. Tap, 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 tap. I am patient. Tap, tap, tap. I am loving. Tap, tap, tap. You know, driving in traffic, right? I'm not being it yet. I'm trying to be it, but I'm not being it yet. So right now we're in the level of trying. We're in AA. But it's time to start getting out of AA, where you just fucking do it, like you said, right?
It's horrible.
Amen.
And for us to know that this is not it.
Yeah, we know it, because in the group,
For
yeah.
us to know that what is outside of us is nothing, and that what is inside us is everything.
Everything, yeah.
It's shit. It scares the living shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because you before it was all out here,
Yeah,
and
it
you
was
were like,
there.
oh my God, here comes another wave. You know, and now it's I don't have to have that wave coming in. I can decide. But that scares the living daylights out of you, because then you realize that you are something. You are great and you are divine, and you're like, oh my God.
And you can have everything.
Which means you're 100% responsible for your own freaking life.
But that really is, that realization is to me a huge responsibility, in that if I'm sitting
It
here
is a responsibility.
thinking negative thoughts
Yeah.
about,
You're creating it,
then
yeah.
I am.
You're-
it's
You're
not
going
just-
to draw negativity.
Yeah,
to
you're
you.
creating a negative pattern in your body. And the cool thing, this is what I love about the course, this is where I got started on this whole path, was massage school, and seeing how there was so much more than the physical body there, and that simply when you think something, you make your body become a particular pattern. For example, let's say I'm afraid of people, and my energetic, you can see that, I'm afraid of somebody, right? I'm expecting to be attacked. Now, we don't walk around like that, but our energy body does. Imagine if I tensed up just slightly where you didn't even see it. I move, it's like just move your shoulders slightly. You can feel that tension, right? Now live with that for years. Eventually, those patterns that create those blocking of those meridians, blocking of those chakras, lead to the physiology problem, which creates the lesson for you to drop the shit that got you out of the alignment to begin with. It's a full circle type of thing. Hallelujah.
Hang on, brother.
I read a thing recently that said that we think that the universe has the plan for us, and God has the plan, has a divine plan for us. But actually, it's us who should have the plan, and the universe and God are there to make that happen. To fulfill it.
You haven't been coming often, but there's something I had to shift in my awareness. And even knowing this, Mary Ellen, this is the hard thing. Just because you know something doesn't mean you got it, okay? Because you know it here. Owning it is when it becomes part of your blood. Like in Chinese medicine, if you eat something, okay, it goes into my stomach turns it up, turns it into chyme, it goes into my small intestine. My small intestine is where I absorb the good. Or I decide, small intestine is associated with discernment. I decide what's good, I absorb it, it goes into my bloodstream, into my heart, and then what's not good goes out. So when we go through something, when we take something in, it's got to go into our heart, not just be in our head. So that's why when we read and we read and we read and we read, it doesn't mean it's become part of you yet. It's like me eating something and me not absorbing the good out of it, and then it's me crapping it out. And then I need another of the same thing, right? Because I'm not getting that nutrient that I need. But going back to what I was going to say a second ago is that in knowing this hasn't changed it yet completely, but on some level it has. I've noticed a slight change with me. But this is my realization, I share this with most of the group, is that I had this realization that, and it's a huge cavern is not the right word, ravine to jump, is chasm, thank you. On one side is I pray to God and actually grovel to some degree. Like, think about it. It's funny that we're on this today, because I was driving around town, I was driving through the country club, and I was like, oh, there's one of those pray for rain signs I haven't seen in forever. Now, if praying for rain would work, it would have worked. Okay, it would have worked, right? But yet we're still going to stick the sign in there. But here's something to realize about those signs. praying for rain was a commandment to people. It wasn't like, let there be rain. Imagine if just play with an idea. If I put a sign out there that says, pray for rain, I'm telling the person to pray for rain. But if I put a sign out that said, let it rain, and everybody that read that sign was putting that consciousness out, that's how you change stuff.
Right.
But anyway, going back to this thing about the thoughts.
Or embody and be conscious that you have it.
Yeah. But imagine somebody saying, let it be rain. I know people read that.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, pray for
They're
rain.
putting it all on us.
Pray for rain is,
Oh my God, I gotta
pray for rain is not a proper commandment, because if I read that, pray for rain, it's not, think about it, pray for rain. Where does that energy going?
It's request and it's always going to be
Right, and if I
you
go-
always have to wait for
Right.
something.
And I said, if I say let it be rain, it's a commandment. So here's the thing, is the old school thought, and this may be out there for some, but the old school thought is that I have to pray to or grovel to appease God to get what I need. And the other side of that, which is a huge jump I know, is that every word I say, every thought I have, is a commandment to the energy to do what I say. And I've experienced that so many times it's not even funny. Yet still, my freaking grooves trip me up. Because I can do it on the small things, but when the big things come, but it's still just me. And that is the truth. And just like you said, every thought and every word that you speak is a commandment. That's why we have the negativity in your life or in your body, because you're commanding it to be so. You're not asking God for it. I mean, I've only had to let go a handful of people in sessions. And the handful that I've had to let go of is that they were so convinced that God was punishing them and they had to go through the illness that they could not let go of it. Because it's not about God making, what do we think? We think this person up here, is this torturing us? No, that person up there is ready to help you in the blink of an eye if you ask for it. But if you don't ask for it, because here's the thing about God, going back to the center, God is here. God is not caught up in what's happening, whether it's negative or positive. However, if you ask for help, that is the response that happens. The field will give you everything that you ask for, but it's not judging it. So if you're asking for more pain, you get more pain, right? That's being in the God space. And the thing about that is when you're in that God space, then you do that with people around you. Because there's people that are asking for help, but they really don't mean it, right? So if you jump into that, you jump into their drama, you're out here, you've lost your power, and you're ineffective in your own life and that person's life.
Okay, would you say that one more time? Because that seems like that's extremely important.
Okay.
Well, and I agree. Because I was thinking about it.
The last part about the God thing? Okay.
About
Jumping into somebody else's.
yep.
All right, so if God is in this place, that God is going to give you everything that you ask for, even if you're saying, God, I know that you're punishing me with this, and this is what your will, that's what God will give you. And He'll give you anything positive that you ask for too. However, we're in more of a habit of asking for something negative or believing that God has to want to give it to us. But let's jump in.
That's what I think I'm maybe not catching. Are you subliminally asking for the negative?
Yes, unconsciously. Until you realize the pattern, which is what this group is all about. This group is all about trying what pattern is making your dis-ease, whether it's in your body or your life, because it is you that did it. God isn't doing shit to you. God is only trying to freaking help you.
That was my mindset the whole time I was in religion.
Mm-hmm.
With it, growing up, Southern Baptist kid,
Mm-hmm.
that God was this person in the sky. He was just waiting for me to screw up, and He was going to throw lightning bolts at me. And I had such a fear of God. I had no love of God. I had a fear. And that fear encapsulated most of my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in fear because of that programming.
And that's
I'm
how.
still trying to overcome
Right.
that programming.
And that's because that was the easiest way to control people.
Right.
So the Proverbs, right? To what the fear of God is. I can't remember. Basically, that's
The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
nice.
it's not the same as being afraid of God. The fear of God is more reverence and respect,
Okay.
honoring the sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Aligning yourself.
But what about
But it's a teaching that's around.
when we go a step or a giant leap forward and realize that it is us?
Yeah. Well,
That it,
you do that and you tell me, okay? No, seriously.
But we begin to get, I begin to get the realization
Uh-huh.
that we were talking about responsibility, responsibility of negative thoughts,
Yeah.
responsibility of positive thoughts, or I used to think it's just a thought in my head. Nobody even knows I'm thinking it. So what difference does it make? I can think anything I want to.
Yeah, but in this group, we realize that you can pick up on other people's thoughts, and
Yeah.
that the thoughts are not in your head, but they're in a radio frequency that you're sending out. And the crazy thing about radios is whoever's tuned into the negativity, they'll come to you. If you're thinking every man is an asshole because your father abused you or something like that, you go to a bar, guess who your radio frequency is going to pick up? Because your thoughts aren't inside your head, it's going out everywhere. You draw to you exactly what you're putting out.
Yeah, but I guess it seems to be going more and more to not the dualism, but the wholeness.
Yeah.
I mean that we are it.
Yeah. We are, what was it, and somebody can correct me, we are the change that we're waiting for, or we are, we're waiting for the second coming. Well, that's us. That's each of us. We're waiting for, the second coming, come. It's like us. We're the ones that are supposed to wake up to that, to our own superhuman nature, and change the world. Not change the world, but I'm going to go fight somebody, or I'm going to entertain that thought. Because if I'm focusing on the negativity of the world, I'm in AA. If I get outside of that and everything I put out is positive and refreshing and love and yada yada, that's what I'm aligning with. And everybody that's aligned with me around the planet, there starts to be this network connected. And you connect those networks, you get like a sacred geometry. However, the geometry that's over the planet right now, the strongest one that we're going to change, which has the most lines, are the negative ones. But we have to start overlaying that, because the light is more powerful. I see that outer grid as being dark, heavy, gray chains. So people that are thinking those thoughts, they chain themselves to each other. Now you get another, like everybody in this group, even if you just entertain a little bit of these thoughts and you go into your life, in town we've already created a sacred geometry. I get chills with saying that, because that's how the new Eden shows up, is because we freaking map it ourselves. We map it. We fucking change it.
And it's not like a point we have to get to. I mean, isn't it?
No, because every little bit.
Isn't it open-ended?
It is open-ended. It may never end. But whatever, if you can just shine a little bit, you've already changed that. So everybody's going to go. It'd be cool to make a little map, right? And we pick what? Am I going way too far out? Hose me down. So if we took a map and we put a pin in everywhere from this group, wouldn't it be interesting to see the little matrix that we created?
Yeah.
And even if we just had a little bit of light, that little bit of light affects this city. And everywhere else, I guarantee you, there's people doing the same thing in their group, and that's what changes the planet, by focusing on the positive.
And light always overcomes darkness. It's impossible for darkness to overcome the light.
And one second, Jenny. I went to Carlsbad when I was younger, and they turned all the lights out.
I did too.
And I don't even know if they do this anymore. And it's huge, open, dark space, and they lit one match. And in a few minutes, the whole place lit up. It's that powerful. I mean, that's how much powerful a little bit of light has to like a huge, open, black space. Yeah. Not just a little bit. You can see everything. Because here's the thing, is light reflects off of surfaces. So the more light you shine, this must be a good one. If I'm shining light, then that light, even if that person can't absorb it, is going to reflect back out. And if there's enough of us doing that, the world will change, period. So you don't change by being in AA, you change by doing what you want to be doing. Yeah. Sorry, Jenny, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I heard this really funny thing. Like, my patients, a lot of my patients are police officers. Yeah. And so every time they come in to see me, I'm like, okay, tell me something funny from this week. I love their little stories. So this one cop, he was telling me, when he arrests somebody and they have things they shouldn't have in their pants, and he says, it's not just one person that said this. It's like over and over, those aren't my pants. He wakes up in the morning like, I think I'm going to wear my neighbor's pants. And so what that gets to, and what he always says back is they are today. And those are your pants today. But what that gets to is people who are uber religious, and I don't want to put a label on any monotheistic religion.
And I'm not bashing religion.
No, but anybody that says, oh, it's God's will, oh, inshallah, whatever you say, oh, it's God's will, That's taking the responsibility off of
Right,
yourself,
right,
saying these aren't my pants, that's not my weed, that's not my meth, but it is. And so if you own your pants,
What is it? What is another name for pants?
what
What are these?
jeans?
Blue jeans. Your jeans. Own your freaking jeans. We're talking about
My dad
jeans.
used to call them dungarees. I think
I'm trying to get to the jeans.
dungarees. That's the 1930s.
Yeah, I get.
Own your jeans.
Yeah.
But so when people are like, oh well, and that's why that divorce class I went to called divorce care or something. Oh my God, I had to leave after 4 weeks. It's 16 weeks long because all these people were like, well, it's just God's will that this. I'm like, no, you did this. Your marriage is like it is because you did it.
Thanks to the tango.
That's it. And I had
And then
to
you take
go.
responsibility, make the changes, and move on.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Put
And
your
it's-
put your
my
put your
sister
big
sent me-
boy and girl
my sister
boy
sent me one of
jeans.
those primitive signs for my birthday. And
What is
said-
it? A primitive sign?
Yeah, they're little. Y'all have seen them. They're wooden boxes, but they have sayings on them, and they have all different ones. But people give them to me. They're like things I collect, and I put them in my hallway at home. And my sister's this last Tuesday, the one I got was there are no mistakes, only lessons.
Yeah. See, that's funny.
cool.
See, the synchronicity
Yeah.
is. And here's another thing that happens within group, and I'm going to get back to you, Charlie.
Okay.
Well, this is a cool thing that happens in group, is when you come here, unless you're totally like, those are whacked out crazy nut jobs, which you might be thinking. But then what happens is when I get something, I don't know how many times I've talked to somebody, oh, I was getting the same thing. So this network of light is fucking real. It's not just imaginary, it's real. And whatever y'all are going through, I tend to experience or go through too. On the upside, it's like if I have an aha, that's why group work is so important, because you grow exponentially because it's boom, 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 boom. But we're not AA looking at the problems, we're looking at the solutions and moving forward. It's a big difference. Charlie, sorry.
Well, I've been trying to think of my analogies or to get one for all that you've talked about tonight. So I think I got it, but everybody can elaborate till we get it.
Okay.
Okay, so the one you're talking about is, about meditating and God is in the middle and all the world's going around, but, he's not in it. So then,
He's in the
No,
heart space.
he's not. He's in it. He's observing though with
Right.
with neutrality.
yes,
Neutral observing.
yes. Okay, so then God is a racquetball in the racquetball court, and we're all the other shit that it hits.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That could work. Yeah, I mean that could work.
Okay.
He's inside the
Okay, and because he's everywhere and just a
Pinging
free
around.
spirit
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
he doesn't land.
Right. That I see your point. Yeah, because if you ever play racquetball, that sucker is moving. Yeah. It doesn't ever stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, see, to me,
And-
God is like this, and when I say God, I mean spirit, energy. I mean, if you want to know my definition of God, it is a energetic, conscious, life-giving, and sustaining field, period. That means it's trying to do exactly that. It's trying to support you every step of the way. So you got to realize that it's not God making you do the bad stuff, it's you. So the lessons that come into your life are showing you're less on. You're not on like you need to be. That's it. That's all it's about.
Oh yeah. And then what was the one you were saying about that one thing was all the ocean and then we was the waves?
Yeah. Deborah said, yeah.
What was the ocean part?
Oh, it's like one body of water. It's the ocean, right?
Uh-huh.
That's God. But
Okay,
waves
yeah,
waves come up and they seem to be individual.
Right.
Like if you're at the tip of the wave, you go, oh, I'm separate. You see the ocean, but deep down,
Okay.
the deeper you go, and that's
Oh,
with
yeah.
us. When you go, and like in meditation, the deeper you go, the more you realize there's no separation.
Oh, sure.
I'm like, if in this room, I'm looking at the tips of waves, but you're still going to the same ocean.
Oh yeah, or when I first thought of when she said that was about we was the wave was that we're little bobbers in life.
Yeah, that's
You
gonna
know,
be true.
and what do you call it? If you in your comfort zone, you just gonna float. You're not gonna go anywhere.
That's a
But
really
it's
good
your-
point.
But it's your choice, whether you're gonna sink or swim,
Right.
and being aware, because then the little waves turn into a tidal wave. So
Mhm.
you're either gonna survive,
Tsunami.
or you're gonna give up and blah blah blah, and
Mhm.
just
And
go
oh
see
my gosh,
Jesus.
where are you from? I love your accent.
And,
Where are you from?
Wichita Falls, Texas.
I love it.
Born and raised.
Awesome.
And,
I love it.
Okay, and then you say the part about I never say the word fuck before, but I say it all the time.
I think that's because you're being around Katie now.
I saw that about John. You were raised Baptist. I was too, but I just came out of my Easter egg shell and I ain't going back. So, but when you talking about, well, you just. You're talking about fucking doing it, and then you don't fucking do it.
Right.
So you want to know what you got to do? The step that go from talking about fucking doing it and fucking doing
Right.
it. You got to put your Nikes on.
True.
Just fucking do it.
And what is on a
That's
Nike?
the motto.
And what's on a Nike? A little swoosh wave.
Yeah, but a Nike is just do it. Well,
Right.
new motto, just fucking do it. You know.
All right, we can start that motto. Thank you, Charlie.
You bet. I like my analogies because, the dots are just pinging, and God's like, Charlie, I know you're bobbing here. I'm trying to get it. So, racquetball, ping, 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 ping. And it's like, oh, I get it, I'm getting it.
It works.
I have a brother-in-law who has cancer, and he's been going through radiation, and I've been texting him. He's got two more treatments. The last week, he texted me and said, he's Catholic, okay? I'm getting closer to God.
Oh, wow.
And I texted him and I said, you can't get any closer to God.
That's a good point.
You can't get any closer. He is absolutely in every atom and cell and molecule of you.
But that's the perception thing that got us kicked out of Garden of Eden. It's like, I love that, because it is impossible to get closer to God, at least physically, because it's inside of you. However, perception-wise, God can be like, at the center of the universe, which is 1,000,000 miles away, right? Or light years away. So God is right here. So it is a matter of fact of like, are you going to be it? Or are you going to still pretend that it's far away? And sometimes it's fun to pretend it's far away.
So do we just accept that
Yeah.
our alignment?
How did that
that
go?
we already are on?
Yeah.
with
The
God?
thing is,
That's
and-
what came to
You're the
me
great sister-in-law.
in my garden.
Right, yeah.
It really, it's like you're already aligned.
Yeah.
What
There
more
you go.
do you
Yeah,
think you
yeah,
need
yeah.
to do? Because, you believe in love and peace and,
Right.
all that. But on the inside and within every cell, you are aligned.
Right.
So, what are you doing that's not in alignment?
It's just hard to
with
know
God?
that
So just,
yeah.
Oh, I
just
can
do
tell you
whatever
when I'm
it is
not
you're
aligned.
supposed to do.
I can tell you when I'm not aligned.
How can you tell?
Oh boy.
You feel it.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
feel
boy.
it.
You feel it.
I sat across a table Thursday with my soon-to-be ex-husband at our CPA's office.
Mm.
And somebody said to me, and it was the ugliest feeling. And he's not a mean person at all. But somebody said, oh yeah, you guys were sitting and your heart chakras were completely aligned and you were in opposition by sitting across a table from each other. That's opposing. And it was at the level of your heart chakra. I'm like, oh, it felt so yucky to where I'm like, I will never ever sit across a table at our accountant's again. Like I will not do this next year.
Don't put yourself in that physical
Yeah.
position.
Well, what I meant was, if I have a thought that's not in line with love, you better believe I know what's going on
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah. But
That's-
you're aware of it.
I think you're aware of it.
Well,
That's
if you're
right.
in,
I got what you're saying now.
okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Because the awareness is what gets you into AA. The awareness of like, life's got to be fucking better than this is what gets you. Seriously, you got to do that to get into AA. Somebody I love, I still have his. I copied the CDs onto my computer and it scrambled them, and I'm upset. But somebody gave me these CDs a long time ago. It's called Chuck C. A New Pair of Glasses. He's a 75-year-old plus alcoholic. He's passed away now, alcoholic. Or he went around lecturing people. The stuff he would say was like totally way beyond New Age. It's not even funny. And he had a wet brain. He kind of slurred when he talked, but it was some really brilliant information. It was brilliant information, though. And when we have a certain perception or consciousness, like he said, he says where I live. He's pretty wealthy at one point in his life. He says we're out in, sometimes when you're wealthy, you can drink a lot more. So he said he had a house overlooking a lake, and he says if that whole lake was whiskey, it wouldn't be enough. So when we're coming from these misperceptions, I don't care what you try to do, you're never going to change it. So it's an internal perception change. And the thing that got him to it was him almost dying a couple of times. And the paramedic said, he died on the kitchen floor. And the wife called the paramedics. They showed up, and paramedics said, straight out, says, if you do this one more time, you're dead. And that was his aha to start his realizing that was a lesson of what he was out of alignment with. So the negativity, the main thing about this talk, I know we've talked about really great things here. The main thing to get about this talk is the lessons that show up in your life are just trying to show you where you're not being completely on. And that every one of us have superhuman powers, abilities, and that is our ultimate place that we'll reach. And like the God power is within us. It is within us. And if we continue to give it away or grovel to something else, instead of taking responsibility, then we'll never reach it completely. So taking the responsibility is, I'm no longer going to drink. I'm no longer going to do whatever it is. And then that's what changes your life. So, anyway. I thought about something with the net, and then I kind of lost it. I think it was going with when Jenny was talking about keeping those positive thoughts. The Abraham Hicks CDs that you lent us, those were great. About just keeping your thoughts positive as being outside of AA. It's just doing it, right? It's not thinking like, okay, today I'm not going to drink. It's like you just have an entirely thought that doesn't do anything with anything. That has nothing to do with the negative. And that focus will really start changing your life.
Okay, say that one more time.
If I can.
Having a...
Keeping your thoughts positive.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
you were saying, when the people are in AA, they're like, they start the whole meeting like, "Hi, I'm so sorry, I'm an alcoholic." And you were like, "That's so negative." So he's saying, yes,
Yeah,
it is, but you acknowledge that. Then you go on to
That's
change
the that's the one step, but then you go on to the
because
step.
that's the awareness
Yeah.
step.
Yeah, it's yeah, right.
And then you go to positive. So what he was just saying is,
Which is what Katie was saying into what Jennifer was saying. Is like you got to go through the realization, wake up to where you can be like, okay, I'm in charge and I can start doing. Yeah.
We tap on the negative first.
Yes.
Everybody has negative thoughts. We can't help it. But they measured negative and positive thoughts, and thoughts have mass. Okay, they have a weight to them. The negative thoughts actually have less mass than a positive thought. So when a negative thought comes in your head, like, I don't know, the guy in front of you driving is going to make you late for work or whatever, boom, that's a negative thought. If you can immediately replace it with something positive, like, it's a beautiful day out, or I'm glad I have a job, or, whatever it is, if you can replace it with a positive thought,
Has more
that
weight.
has more weight, more mass.
See, that's great. And what I think would help me is to remember to practice that.
Right.
Because a lot of times I'm running late in the morning. I'm real quick, and I'm an optimistic guy. I'm really totally going along. I'm real good to go, get out of the way! I mean, I'm real quick.
And when
with
you
that.
do that,
that's-
you're bringing more people that are going to make you more late.
Yeah.
Right. Well, now, what I need to do is remember, to return it. And a lot of times, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this is the weather's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving a nice truck.
My favorite
You
song on
know,
the radio,
and-
in my car, in 2 minutes more.
I guess just
Whatever.
kind of get it in here, practice a little bit, and that itself could be.
You'll make the new
my
patterns.
and that person that's in front of you, give them positive, whatever is making you frustrated.
Yeah, 'cause That's a powerful. The best said is very powerful because you know what? Our thoughts and feelings go beyond ourselves. So we can send positive things to people, but we also send negative. So when I do that, this is just my visualization as I pull that back to me, not to make something happen to me, but if you go, cursing someone is literally saying, that jackass. You just zapped them. Seriously. Yeah, well,
Everything
both.
is always working out for me.
Right, that's a great,
My
yeah.
law of attraction
And what's
goes
interesting,
to-
furthermore,
when I can remember to say that.
Yeah. Right.
But sometimes I don't.
Say that-
Everything is always working out for me. Even Esther Hicks even has that.
Will you
It's a
feel
reverse
it
quote
maybe
that you can put inside your
Thursday
windshield.
evening
Everything
or-
is always working out.
Remember what day it was I was supposed to see
Even though when I
Yeah.
don't believe
that
it.
jackass.
Sometimes.
That jackass.
That was me, yeah.
I'm gonna get him.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I recently
always
saw
has
something
like
like that online where they had like 2 big walls
Uh-huh.
and they had people write what they thought about the present and what they thought about the future. And if that was something positive, they put it on a yellow slip. If it was something negative, they put it on a different color.
I saw that somewhere.
And I think it was online somewhere. I don't remember.
So it was
Well, it's an insurance commercial.
an insurance
Like-
commercial.
It's
So
not
that
that loud, but
they-
it's something like that.
The present was, a little bit, a good bit darker. the future was really positive.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, how can we change our thoughts about now
Right.
to achieve that positive
Mhm.
future?
Well,
We need to think about how we're thinking about now.
Absolutely.
Well, also that brings in a good point, because the stuff, Mary Ellen, that we need to change is the wall that has all the negativity on it. Because even though we're looking at the future and thinking positive, we're dragging that shit forward. Because we need to change both walls to positive. Does that make sense?
You change your vision and you think about that.
Right. But if I'm thinking about my future and I write a negative thing, I mean, that puts me in conflict. Here I'm saying something negative. Here I'm saying something positive. You're only going to get the... I mean, here's the thing about consciousness. You're only going to get the percentage of what you desire to the level that you fully believe or live it. It can be. Seriously. Only to the level that you believe it can be. I believe that's why we get... I believe that's why we're not fully embodying it yet, because we're not 100%... We're not in 100% believability yet, okay? So groups like this expand our believability. Like when you first got into energy work and Reiki work. But if you didn't know anything about before, the introduction to that made you believe it was possible, right? Isn't that fucking crazy that simply by expanding in a belief, your reality can change?
Right.
Just by simply changing your belief. Here's the thing. Belief is concrete thought. If I believe that I'm going to die and go to heaven, then that's probably something I might experience. However, like Deborah talked about, if we got all this negative belief that I'm not the powerful one, even though it was years ago and it's ingrained in me and it's still on this wall, it's still there. That's preventing me from believing my future where I can be 100% powerful. Does that make sense? So it is about getting this wall clean, getting the past clean, because that's all the grooves in my freaking head.
I got in this heated debate with a guy earlier last week, and he said the comment, what do you expect you're going to get out of life? I said, I'm going to get everything I want. And he just had nothing to say. I'm like,
Well, a lot of people say that's impossible,
Yeah.
right? Because of the
It's
pro-
so not.
Yeah, exactly. It's a belief. So to answer that, it's kind of cool that came around. Is I believe that fucking belief right there is tripping me up. Okay, it's what you believe, and the thing is that we've had so many experiences. Our experiences are more believable than things that haven't happened yet. That's why in a group, when you have an experience, you go, "Wow, this really works." It's because the experience changes you to a new belief. It's hard sometimes to take something that's been so ingrained in your experience, like men are assholes, to experience a good one without rejecting it as a reality.
Or just Newtonian physics as opposed to quantum.
Yeah, that's a good example.
What's that? Tell the difference between the two.
Okay.
Deborah goes, swallow.
If you don't, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It's
Sorry.
like, okay, we thought all of this was structured the way
Concrete.
it
Solid.
used to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, it's not.
Okay.
Like that picture of the atom that you had up there,
Uh-huh.
I was going to say, oh, wait a minute, you need to get a different picture.
I know, yeah, it's true. It's true. Even the cells, but
Even the cells.
So it's not Newton, it's Stephen Hawking, is what you're saying.
Stephen Hawking's a black hole. It's more quantum physics. It's
Everything's energy. There's no matter. All this stuff is just
Right.
energy.
Mhm.
You keep looking at something with a microscope. Look. You'll never find anything solid. Even if you look at the atoms, it's just an energy ball. You look
Yeah.
inside the atoms. Oh, there's quarks and stuff.
Right.
Look at them. They're just energy. There's nothing.
so
solid.
yeah, exactly. So
Another thing, Newtonian. Seeing is believing. Quantum, believing.
Is believing.
Yeah.
No, believing is seeing.
and quantum. The difference between Newton is
Okay.
Newton is like that math works because that's how we fly to the moon is using that. However, quantum physics says that instead of flying to the moon, there's a possibility that I could jump to the moon, and that's where things can really get weird and change exponentially. It's like leaps, quantum leaps in reality, as opposed to okay, I have to walk here. Here I am. I'm changing. I'm walking instead of going. Hey, I'm doing here. Let's leap here. Let's leap here. So this group is about hey, let's get on to leaping. You know,
Remember that old show?
quantum leap. I used to like that show. Yeah.
Which show?
Yeah.
I think it was quantum
I think
leaping.
they call it quantum leap.
Drop it.
Quantum leap.
He was stuck in some quantum machine where he was keep leaping through time.
He could shift, all of a sudden he would shift and thrown into a whole nother reality, another different body.
Seeing is believing.
Seeing is believing.
versus believing is seeing. She said seeing is believing is Newtonian, and
Yeah.
believing is seeing is.
So I can believe it.
So then the second one is a faith.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I see this couch, I
So
can
then
believe
what-
in it.
What's the first one?
Don't like that word faith, because what faith, the true definition of faith is feeling something that you can't prove. But I think you can prove what we're talking about.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Right.
But going back to the seeing is believing, right? I see this couch, I believe it's here. Now,
Yeah.
there's stuff in this room that I cannot see.
So
There's
the first one
chocolate.
is believing, and the second one is
The first one is I have to see it. I have to touch it. I have to feel it. Oh, there's Brenda. Okay.
okay.
Now believing
Yeah.
is God is right here,
Oh,
right
sure.
here. That's believing.
Okay.
And if I believe that strong enough, I will begin to
Yeah.
see it in my life because I know it.
Oh, okay. Or the faith I'm talking about is like, they say what we call it is you
Faith.
just have to have faith that you're gonna hold you up. You can't see the faith. You just have to believe that
It's
chair's
invisible.
gonna
Yeah,
hold you up.
I agree with you.
Right.
I agree. But faith
Yeah,
is
that's what
a
I mean.
faith is a believing.
Is
Faith is the reality that you can't see or touch or test. But it's a reality.
Those people walking around my house, are they protons, electrons, eons? What?
Probably all of them. Phased a different reality. Well, like the angels, people are into angels. Do you see them?
No.
No, most people don't. Some, but most people
Yeah.
don't. So it's just show of hands. Who in here sees angels? Who believes in angels? The number is larger. I mean, you believe in them is more than the people that see them, right? And the crazy thing, I took this amazing class one time, which was like really being at a rock concert, Matrix Energetics, and he talked about that the beliefs you have can save your ass, because if you're driving, he mentioned, for example, he was driving, I can't remember the exact, I'm just going to have to paraphrase it all to hell, but he's driving somewhere and he hits this concrete median, and he starts to go off into like this ravine where there's a river and stuff below, but his belief in angels, that belief allowed a reality to happen that some other people may not be able to experience. Does that make sense? But only thing that shifted it was simply him believing that it was possible. So that's the quantum physics. Everything that gets stuck in belief gets frozen in time in a negative way, because there's also a positive side. If I believe something cannot happen, then I am locking that reality, that quantum reality that says anything can possible. I'm saying it can't be possible, and that means by law of quantum mechanics, it can't happen for me. So you're better just to be open to say like fucking anything is possible. Like what did you say, Annette? Said everything is working out for me.
Everything is always working out for me.
Yeah, everything is always working out for me. Anything is
that's
freaking
right.
possible. $1 million could literally show up in my car,
It could.
and I don't have to have a reason. If I have to have a reason for money to show up in my bank account, guess what? I have to have a fucking reason for money to show up in my bank. But quantum mechanics means anything is freaking possible. I mean, anything. That's amazing. But my brain goes, nah, not that. It still does. It still catches me. I mean, every one of us gets tripped up by that
And
thing.
mine is even, everything works perfect for me for my highest good.
That's a good one.
So,
Yeah.
I like highest good.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, it's just whatever works out for you, the wording. So I'm gonna kind of end this here. So the homework is to watch your thoughts, practice being the best version of you. Johnny Starseed. Hey, that's me! Don't be laughing!
What does the key stand for?
I just added that in. One of my favorite books as a kid was Johnny Appleseed. So I turned it into John
It could be
E. Energy.
Energy. Energy.
Yeah.
It could be everything.
Johnny Everything Starseed. Sweet. I'm going to change that. So you are all powerful beings capable of many great things. All you have to do is follow your heart. You're off to live from our heart because the wonderful thing it
We
is.
can't sing that.
It does. Yeah. I totally murdered that.
Like we're off to see the wizard.
Yeah. And scene.
And